Episode 22 in 2022. Who could have planned this? God, probably. As you may have noticed, or already know, we have approached the period in the Bible where people become tribes and tribes become places. And researching the future where these stories are leading to, I noticed that the Kingdom of Solomon is referred to as the United Monarchy, which splits after his death into two kingdoms, the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. And we've heard both of these names, and we know both of these people from the book of Genesis. So, considering this, in Jacob's blessing to his sons on his deathbed, he obviously favors his son Judah. Genesis 49:8, Judah, you are he whom your brothers shall praise. Your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's children shall bow down before you. Judah is a lion's whelp. And verse 10, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh comes, and to him shall be the obedience of the people. So this seems to point to the idea that the Yahwist, or J writer, was writing this history for an audience in the kingdom of Judah. But at one point, Joseph was also the most prominent of the sons in Genesis. So, I've discussed and attributed some of these differences to the multiple writers of the Torah. But the story is more complicated than I've described before. So, with more research and more historical knowledge at my disposal, I'm going to tackle, again, the leading hypotheses of Bible authorship. We start with the documentary hypothesis, the only hypothesis I've described previously on the Non-Believer Bible Club. This is a 20th century idea that the Bible is predominantly composed of contributions from four authors. The Yahwist, or J writer, who refers to God as Yahweh. The documentary hypothesis dates the Yahwist at the 10th or 9th century BC in the court of King Solomon. Second, the Elohist, a writer around 975 BC, when the United Monarchy split into the Kingdom of Israel in the north and the Kingdom of Judah in the south. E was believed to originate from the Kingdom of Israel and referred to God most often using the term Elohim. Third, we have the Deuteronomist, dated to the 7th or 8th century at the time of King Josiah, who is noted for opposing the worship of all gods other than Yahweh. This is also an interesting time because of the Assyrian captivity, where the kingdom of Israel in the north falls to Assyrian conquest. The Deuteronomist is from the southern kingdom of Judah. Lastly, we have the priestly source, written by priests after the Babylonian exile. In this case, the southern kingdom of Judah is conquered by the Babylonians. After about 50 years, they are allowed to return, marking the beginning of the Second Temple period. Babylonians destroyed the Temple of Solomon at the beginning of this ordeal. Now at the end, when they are allowed to return home, the Judeans reconstruct the temple. And so, this is called the Second Temple period. And it is in this era that a last author, the redactor, or R, edited all of these works to form the finished Torah that we know today. Or so we thought. The documentary hypothesis was the predominant theory for most of the 20th century, but over time, modern research began to dissolve the documentary hypothesis. For instance, the existence of a unified kingdom under Solomon has been suggested to be heavily mythologized or embellished. So, in response to dissatisfaction with the documentary hypothesis, works appeared in the 1970s by John Van Setters, Rolf Rendtorff, and Hans Heinrich Schmid, calling into question the legitimacy of the documentary hypothesis. What would come of their investigations would be termed the supplementary hypothesis, the dominant hypothesis of the 21st century. Accepting only J, D, and P as legitimate sources, the theory reorders them, making D the original text, written in the 7th century BC after the conquest of the northern kingdom of Israel by Assyria. In his book, The Pentateuch, a social science commentary, John Van Setters notes that although J is named for the use of the term Yahweh. J also uses Elohim in Genesis, so the difference between the two is not necessarily clear by use of the name of God alone. E in the supplementary hypothesis is therefore considered either too slim or too derivative to stand apart, and is instead melded in as a part of J, written around 540 BC towards the end of the exile, instead of the 10th or 9th century in the court of King Solomon. Finally, P in 400 BC after the exile is seen as editing rather than contributing independently to J, and exists along with J as a reaction to the original Deuteronomist text. R appears again to bring the text to its final form as the Pentateuch. The fragmentary hypothesis is another idea which followed a similar route, but claimed that each story was written by a different author. This would explain the textual variety of the Torah, but it was not able to account for the internal consistency of the work overall, which made the supplementary hypothesis the more popular of the two. Lastly, I saw a great video by Useful Charts called The Torah Pentateuch, Who Wrote the Bible? It details another theory from Swiss Bible scholar Konrad Schmid, the son of Hans Heinrich Schmid. In his book, Genesis and the Moses Story, he proposes a theory called the dual origins theory. In the theory, Schmid presents the idea that pre-priestly sources are the result of two fully formed origin stories, the story of Moses, which would separately influence D, and the story of the patriarchs, about Abraham and his descendants, two strands which were combined into one narrative by P, the priestly source, to unify the Jewish people after the Babylonian exile. After this, it was supplemented with Deuteronomy by the redactor. Useful Charts goes on to speculate that these stories could have originated from the southern kingdom of Judah and the northern kingdom of Israel, making sense of a lot of details, such as the predominance of Joseph in one tradition compared to the importance of Judah in the other, even going as far as to suggest that Israel and Jacob could be two different people, combined as a result of priestly era consolidation. Even if this doesn't prove to be accurate, we do know that members of the kingdom of Israel who escaped the Assyrian captivity did migrate down into the kingdom of Judah. What all of this tells me is that either way you look at it, the story of the Bible is something that has survived through multiple generations in different ways, through different cultures, and with different beliefs. Time and further research may prove or disprove these theories, but it's interesting for me to learn about this and to see that Bible authorship is still an ongoing discussion. Now that I have filled your brain up with the most obscure Bible knowledge, as is always my goal, join with me as we return to the King James Bible to follow Moses and the Israelites on their way out of Egypt. Chapter 14. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, that they turn and encamp before Pi-hahiroth. Pi-hahiroth. Pi-hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, over against Baal-zephon. Before it ye shall encamp by the sea. I see here the meaning of Pi-hahiroth seems ambiguous. It has been speculated to mean mouth of the gorges, with Pi corresponding to the Egyptian word Ipai or Ibu, meaning house of, and the Ha indicating desert hills or mountains to the west. In the English Revised Version, a footnote refers to an alternate translation, where the desert tracks begin. Okay, moving on. For Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel, They are entangled in the land, the wilderness hath shut them in. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, that he shall follow after them. And I will be honored upon Pharaoh, and upon all his host, that the Egyptians may know that I am the Lord. And they did so. Interesting. So this happened last time. His plan is to allow the Pharaoh to follow his terrible, terrible whims, so that when God smacks them down, all will see that God is the Lord. And it was told the king of Egypt that the people fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and of his servants was turned against the people. And they said, "Why have we done this, that we have let Israel go from serving us?" And he made ready his chariot and took his people with him. And he took 600 chosen chariots, and all the chariots of Egypt, and captains over every one of them. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued after the children of Israel. And the children of Israel went out with an high hand. But the Egyptians pursued after them, all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh, and his horsemen and his army, and overtook them encamping by the sea, beside Pi-hahiroth, before Baal-zephon. This is starting to remind me of Laban, actually. He just can't let them go. And when Pharaoh drew nigh, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them, and they were sore afraid. And the children of Israel cried out unto the Lord. And they said unto Moses, Because there were no graves in Egypt, hast thou taken us away to die in the wilderness? Wherefore hast thou dealt thus with us, to carry us forth out of Egypt? Is not this the word that we did tell thee in Egypt, saying, Let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians? For it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians than that we should die in the wilderness. And Moses said unto the people, Fear ye not, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will shew to you today. For the Egyptians whom ye have seen today, ye shall see them again no more forever. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. And the Lord said unto Moses, Wherefore criest thou unto me? Speak unto the children of Israel, that they go forward. But lift thou up thy rod, and stretch out thine hand over the sea, and divide it. And the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. This is the moment. And I, behold, I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they shall follow them. And I will get me honor upon Pharaoh, and upon all his host, upon his chariots, and upon his horsemen. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I have gotten me honor upon Pharaoh, upon his chariots, and upon his horsemen. What God seems to be saying is that the Pharaoh is not going to stop unless he's smacked down hard. They may have seen countless plagues on their own city, but until they march out and see an unbelievable miracle before them and are smited, will they finally honor the Lord. And the angel of God, which went before the camp of Israel, removed and went behind them. And the pillar of the cloud went from before their face and stood behind them. And it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel. And it was a cloud and darkness to them, but it gave light by night to these, the Israelites, so that the one came not near the other all the night. And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. And the Egyptians pursued and went in after them to the midst of the sea, even all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. And it came to pass that in the morning watch the Lord looked unto the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and of the cloud, and troubled the host of the Egyptians, and took off their chariot wheels, that they drave them heavily, so that the Egyptians said, Let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fighteth for them against the Egyptians. And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand over the sea, that the waters may come again upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots, and upon their horsemen. And Moses stretched forth his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to his strength when the morning appeared, and the Egyptians fled against it, and the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. And the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen, and all the host of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. There remained not so much as one of them. But the children of Israel walked upon dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. And Israel saw that great work which the Lord did upon the Egyptians. And the people feared the Lord, and believed the Lord, and his servant Moses. So I see, it's not just for the Egyptians to respect the Lord, but it's for the people of Israel to see what the Lord is doing for them. Chapter 15. Then sang Moses and the children of Israel this song unto the Lord, and spake, saying, I will sing unto the Lord, for he hath triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider hath he thrown into the sea. The Lord is my strength and song, and he is become my salvation. He is my God, and I will prepare him an habitation, my father's God, and I will exalt him. The Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name. That's cool. Okay, so I'm going to interrupt this briefly to talk about a Gnostic poem, which I was reading online because I don't have any books with the Gnostic scriptures. It's called Thunder Perfect Mind. Here's an excerpt from it. For I am the first and the last. I am the honored one and the scorned one. I am the whore and the holy one. I am the wife and the virgin. I am the barren one, and many are her sons. I am the silence that is incomprehensible. I am the utterance of my name. A refresher. Gnosticism is a 2nd century heretical movement in the early Christian church. Basically, when everybody was trying to figure out what Christianity was going to be, the establishment said, well, it's not going to be that. And they said that about a lot of things. And so Gnosticism and works of Gnosticism were hidden in jars and found in the desert in 1945. The speaker of the poem that I read an excerpt from is a feminine divine figure. But it's interesting how I'm seeing the connection between the wording, what these people believed these beings would say, and what that means for the divinity or form that they take. On the one hand, I am the utterance of my name. And then, in the Bible, the Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name. Nice. Verse 4. Pharaoh's chariots and his host, and his host hath he cast into the sea. This is my favorite sentence. Pharaoh's chariots and his host oh my God. Pharaoh's chariots and his host hath he cast into the sea. Yes! His chosen captains also are drowned in the Red Sea. The depths have covered them. They sank into the bottom as a stone. Is this the song? I wonder if this is the lyrics of the song they're singing. It's kind of like telling a story song-like. Thy right hand, O Lord, is become glorious in power. Thy right hand, O Lord, hath dashed in pieces the enemy. This is a song. Thy right hand, O Lord, is glorious in power. Yeah, thy right hand, O Lord, hath dashed in pieces the enemy. Let me work on that. And in the greatness of thine excellency, thou hast overthrown them that rose up against thee. Thou sentest forth thy wrath, which consumed them as stubble, and with the blast of thy nostrils, the waters were gathered together. The flood stood upright as an heap in the depths, were congealed in the heart of the sea. Yeah, I'm not going to stop. The enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoil. My lust shall be satisfied upon them. I will draw my sword, my hand shall destroy them, but thou didst blow with thy wind. Okay, I'm done. The sea covered them. They sank as lead in the mighty waters. Who is like unto thee, O Lord, among the gods? Who is like thee, glorious in holiness, fearful in praises, doing wonders? Yeah. I don't know why my style of singing the Bible, this is nothing like Christian music. This is like this is like if the Book of Mormon was really, really bad. Thou stretchedst out thy right hand, the earth swallowed them. Thou in thy mercy hath led forth the people which thou hast redeemed. Thou hast guided them in thy strength unto thy holy habitation. The people shall hear and be afraid. Sorrow shall take hold, I'm not going to do it, on the inhabitants of Palestina. Palestina, eh? Okay, this is interesting. This is a Greek form. The Hebrew is Phelesheth, which would perhaps be best translated Philistia. The inhabitants of Palestina are the Philistines, from whom the Holy Land derived the name, which it still retains in most of the languages of modern Europe. Which is true. Actually, the area that is now Israel was named Palestine as an insult to the Judeans after the Jewish War of 66 against the Roman Empire. Verse 15. Then the dukes of Edom shall be amazed, the mighty men of Moab. Trembling shall take hold upon them, all the inhabitants of Canaan shall melt away. Fear and dread shall fall upon them. By the greatness of thine arm they shall be as still as a stone, till thy people pass over, O Lord, till the people pass over, which thou hast purchased. This really wants to be a song. Till the people pass over, the people pass over. Thou shalt bring them in and plant them in the mountain of thine inheritance, in the place, O Lord, which thou hast made for thee to dwell in the sanctuary, O Lord, which thy hands have established. The Lord shall reign forever and ever. For the horse of Pharaoh went in with his chariots, and with his horsemen into the sea, and the Lord brought again the waters of the sea upon them. But the children of Israel went on dry land in the midst of the sea. And Miriam the prophetess, the sister of Aaron, took a timbrel in her hand, and all the women went out after her with timbrels and with dances. And Miriam answered them, Sing ye to the Lord, for he hath triumphed gloriously, and his rider hath he thrown into the sea. Man, I really want to know what that song sounded like. That had to be a song. I read somewhere that when Eve is created, and Adam has a dialogue about her where he says, you are flesh of my flesh. It's considered like a love poem. It's actually written in poetry in the original Hebrew. So you can't tell me that this section, chapter 15, Moses' song, then sang Moses and the children of Israel. Don't tell me that that wasn't a song. You have to look that up. Or else they get my version. Verse 22. So Moses brought Israel from the Red Sea, and they went out into the wilderness of Shur, and they went 3 days in the wilderness, and found no water. And when they came to Marah, they could not drink of the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. Therefore the name of it was called Marah. I guess I don't have to look that one up. Probably means bitter. And the people murmured against Moses, saying, What shall we drink? And he cried unto the Lord. And the Lord shewed him a tree, which when he had cast into the waters were made sweet. There he made for them a statute and an ordinance, and there he proved them, and said, If thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, and wilt do that which is right in his sight, and wilt give ear to his commandments and keep all his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I have brought upon the Egyptians. For I am the Lord that healeth thee. And they came to Elim, where were 12 wells of water, and 70 palm trees, and they encamped there by the waters. I'm starting to see something here. I've been thinking about where this is going to go. What's the next phase of this story? Because right now the Jews are just walking out from Egypt towards the promised land. But I'm seeing something that we have not seen in the story yet, and I'm very happy for it. We've basically gotten to the point where, as I've said many times on this podcast, I'm trying to stitch together, whether it's proper or not, as linear a story as I can with each of these books. And at this point, we've gotten to the perfect people of God. And now, the thing which we haven't seen before, I'm understanding Moses now has to be God. We've seen God take this role where he tells everybody the rules, and then they either follow them or they don't, and then they have to be destroyed, like Onan, the guy who kept pulling out. So as humanity advances and we're given different responsibilities, it still goes in this cyclical nature. Now, Moses has to be God, and Moses has to tell the people what the rules are. So the next step is we start to be able to take the rules which have been given and use them to govern ourselves. So God doesn't have to do this, but we're in the early stages of it. So he's still talking directly to one person. And now that person has to have the fantastic job of God, telling people what to do, showing them that there are rewards when you have faith in God. And if you know the story, responding appropriately when they go astray. Chapter 16. And they took their journey from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came unto the wilderness of Sin, S-I-N, Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the 2nd month after their departing out of the land of Egypt. Good. Sinai is close. They got to go through Sin first. Apparently, this is from the Hebrew word T-I-S-N, Sin, which is just the name of the region. Hi, the name's Sin. No relation. So, we have the 15th day of the 2nd month after their departing out of the land of Egypt. And the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the children of Israel said unto them, Would to God we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt. These guys are whiners. When we sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat bread to the full. For ye have brought us forth into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. Man, you do something nice for people and then they burn you at the stake. Nah, that'll come later. Then said the Lord unto Moses, Behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you. Ooh, manna from heaven? And the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my law or no. And it shall come to pass that on the 6th day they shall prepare that which they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily. Because they won't be able to do it on the 7th day, right? 7th day Sabbath. And Moses and Aaron said unto all the children of Israel, At even, then ye shall know that the Lord hath brought you out from the land of Egypt. And in the morning, then ye shall see the glory of the Lord, for that he heareth your murmurings against the Lord. And what are we, that ye murmur against us? And Moses said, This shall be, when the Lord shall give you in the evening flesh to eat, and in the morning bread to the full, for that the Lord heareth your murmurings, which ye murmur against him. And what are we? Your murmurings are not against us, but against the Lord. I like that. It's like, listen, you aren't actually, when you're mad at me and you're yelling at me, you're not yelling at me, you're yelling at God, man. I'm just the middleman. It's unbelievable after that unbelievable miracle of the Red Sea parting. As a first-time Bible reader, I didn't understand that this is the part of the story where they had to just continually remind people that God brought them out of Egypt. This is like the Pharaoh all over again. He's got to be reminded over and over and over again that Moses is the servant of the Lord, and the Lord wants the people to go. Now the people have to be reminded over and over and over and over again that God is the one that brought them out. I mean, the idea of it is just funny, that you can see the Red Sea part and then like a couple months later be like, this Moses guy, he doesn't know what he's doing. It's like he just did impossible things that no one has ever seen before for you. Yeesh. And Moses spake unto Aaron, say unto all the congregation of the children of Israel, come near before the Lord, for he hath heard your murmurings. And it came to pass, as Aaron spake unto the whole congregation of the children of Israel, that they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of the Lord appeared in the cloud. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, I have heard the murmurings of the children of Israel. Speak unto them, saying, At even ye shall eat flesh, and in the morning ye shall be filled with bread, and ye shall know that I am the Lord your God. And it came to pass that at even the quails came up and covered the camp, and in the morning the dew lay round about the host. And when the dew that lay was gone up, behold, upon the face of the wilderness there lay a small round thing, as small as the hoarfrost on the ground. And when the children of Israel saw it, they said one to another, It is manna, for they wist not what it was. And Moses said unto them, This is the bread which the Lord hath given you to eat. This is the thing which the Lord hath commanded. Gather of it every man according to his eating, an omer for every man, according to the number of your persons. Take ye every man for them which are in his tents. And the children of Israel did so, and gathered, some more, some less. And when they did meet it with an omer, he that gathered much had nothing over, and he that gathered little had no lack. They gathered every man according to his eating. And Moses said, Let no man leave of it till the morning. Notwithstanding, they hearkened not unto Moses, but some of them left of it until the morning. And it bred worms and stank, and Moses was wroth with them. And they gathered it every morning, every man according to his eating. And when the sun waxed hot, it melted. What is this substance? This is unbelievable. It rains, and then there's like hoarfrost on the ground, or dew, and then they look at each other, they don't know what it is. Moses says, yes, gather of it and eat it, but only according to the number that is properly for you. When they disobey, so that part makes sense. But what is this substance? Let's go to Ellicott's. Ellicott's commentary for English readers says, what the manna was has been much disputed. Yeah, I get that. There are two natural substances quite distinct with which it has been compared, and by some persons identified. One is a deposit from the air which falls indifferently on trees, stones, grass, etc., and is generally thick and sticky like honey, but under certain circumstances is concreted into small granular masses. This has been described by Aristotle, Avicenna, Shaw, Forskahl, and others. It has been called air honey. It is collected by the Arabs and eaten with their unleavened cakes as a condiment. It so far resembles the manna that it comes with the dew, is spread on the ground generally, and melts when the sun's rays attain a certain power. But it is never found in large quantities. It does not fall for more than 2 months in the year, and it is wholly unfit to serve as man's principal food, being more like honey than anything else. The other substance is a gum, which exudes from certain trees at certain seasons of the year, in consequence of the punctures made in their leaves by a small insect. It is comparatively a dry substance, and is readily shaken from the trees, and consists of small yellowish-white grains, which are hard, and have been compared to the coriander seed. The name manna attaches in the East to this latter substance, which is employed both as a condiment, like the air honey, and also as a laxative. The special points in which it differs from the manna of Scripture are its confinement to certain trees or bushes, its comparative permanency, for it accumulates on the leaves, It has also, like the air honey, only a short season. In closing, the manna of Scripture must therefore be regarded as a miraculous substance, created ad hoc and not as a natural product. It pleased the Creator, however, to proceed on the lines of nature, so to speak, and to assimilate his new to certain of his old creations. So, in other words, we have no idea what it is. And it came to pass that on the 6th day they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for one man. An omer is like a unit of measurement for dry things. By the way, and all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moses, and he said unto them, This is that which the Lord hath said, Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto the Lord. Bake that which ye will bake today, and seethe that ye will seethe. That's another way of saying boiling. And that which remaineth over, lay up for you to be kept until the morning. And they laid it up till the morning, as Moses bade, and it did not stink, neither was there any worm therein. So you can't keep more than you need, or it will spoil, except on Sunday, then it won't spoil. So this is truly a miraculous food. And Moses said, Eat that today, for today is a Sabbath unto the Lord. Today ye shall not find it in the field. Because you can't work. 6 days ye shall gather it, but on the 7th day, which is the Sabbath, in it there shall be none. And it came to pass that there went out some of the people on the 7th day for to gather, and they found none. And the Lord said unto Moses, How long refuse ye to keep my commandments and my laws? See, for that the Lord hath given you the Sabbath, therefore he giveth you on the 6th day the bread of 2 days. Abide ye every man in his place. Let no man go out of his place on the 7th day. So the people rested on the 7th day. And the house of Israel called the name thereof manna. It was like coriander seed. White. That was mentioned by Ellicott's. And the taste of it was like wafers made with honey. Interesting. And Moses said, This is the thing which the Lord commandeth. Commandeth. Fill an omer of it to be kept for your generations, that they may see the bread, wherewith I have fed you in the wilderness, when I brought you forth from the land of Egypt. And Moses said unto Aaron, Take a pot, and put an omer full of manna therein, and lay it up before the Lord, to be kept for your generations. As the Lord commanded Moses, so Aaron laid it up before the testimony, to be kept. And the children of Israel did eat manna 40 years, until they came to a land inhabited. They did eat manna, until they came unto the borders of the land of Canaan. Now, an omer is the 10th part of an ephah. And here is the end of the chapter and the end of our reading for today. Went by like that for me. Very strange reading, very strange episode, and I was in very strange form, but this is a new year, episode 22 in the year Anno Domini 2022. What this story is turning out to be, for me at least, at this point, it just seems like a strange comedy. Like, God has finally gotten all of his right people in one place, and now he hires an assistant manager to basically do what he does for them. So he's created the perfect people, but now he has to create the perfect society. And that's the next stage. So we don't just get the basics of how do I figure out who in the land is the best. He's gotten generally the best kind of people. Now he's giving them the specific laws. And then this is where I hear it starts to get dry. But this is the essence of this book. This is why the Talmud exists. Because in the Bible, well, in the Old Testament, in the Tanakh for Jewish people, there lie the laws of how they should live. And already mankind is being very disappointing. They are ungrateful that they've been brought out of bondage. They were working to death, and they're ungrateful. They see the Red Sea parted before them, but then they don't believe that God is going to give them food, so they start to whine. God provides them food, but tells them not to take too much. They take too much. God tells them there will not be any of this magic air honey food on the seventh day. They go out anyway. So at every turn in our reading today, the chosen people, the children of Israel, have disobeyed every single rule that has been set before them and not appreciated their new freedom. So, in other words, God, Yahweh, Moses, and Aaron have a lot of work to do. Until then, my creeping things, I hope you enjoy this new year. And remember to always appreciate the flaky, mysterious dew, hoarfrost air honey that God makes for you. But not too much and not too little. And don't look for it on the seventh day. We don't have it. I'm going to go look up that Song of Moses now. Adios.